Quick thing before we start. If you've got a folder of watch later videos you know you're never going to open, do me a favor and hit subscribe now, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your brain built that folder in the first place. Okay, let's get into it. Open your saved folder right now. Go on, I'll wait. How many videos are sitting in there? 50, 200? Now, be honest with yourself. How many have you actually watched? Here's the strange part. You're not lazy, you're not disorganized. What you're doing has a name. Psychologists are actually studying this as a behavioral pattern. It's called digital hoarding, and it might be quietly rewiring the way you relate to your own goals without you ever noticing. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Digital hoarding isn't just an internet joke. It's a real term used by researchers, and it's modeled directly on the psychology of physical hoarding. A team of researchers at Northumbria University, led by psychologist Nick Neave, actually built and validated a questionnaire specifically to measure this. They called it the Digital Hoarding Questionnaire, and the fact that they had to build a measurement tool for it tells you something. This behavior is consistent enough, common enough, and distinct enough to study scientifically. Their research found that digital hoarding shares real similarities with physical hoarding. The hoarding of actual physical objects, the kind that ends up on those TV shows about houses full of stuff nobody can throw away. And structurally, both come down to the same two things. 1, difficulty deleting. 2, compulsive accumulating. You don't press delete and you keep pressing save. Sound familiar? Now, to be clear, having a saved folder doesn't mean you have a disorder. Researchers themselves note that this is a newer, still developing area of study, but the underlying pattern, accumulating digital material you form a strange attachment to without ever really using it, is well documented. And it's worth understanding because it's not really about the videos. It's about what your brain is doing every single time you tap that save button. Here's where it gets interesting. There's a theory in social psychology called symbolic self-completion theory, developed by researchers Robert Wicklund and Peter Gollwitzer back in the 1980s, and it explains almost perfectly what's happening in your saved folder. The theory goes like this. When you commit to a goal that's tied to your identity, something like, I want to be someone who reads more, or I want to be someone who understands finance, or I want to be someone who's cultured and well-read, that commitment creates a kind of psychological tension, a gap between who you are now and who you're trying to become. And that tension doesn't go away until you feel like you've actually closed the gap. Here's the twist the researchers found. When people feel like they're missing the real proof of that identity, they don't always go pursue the real thing. Often, they reach for a substitute symbol instead, something that feels like progress without actually being progress. Think about what that means for a saved video. When you tap that little bookmark icon, your brain gets a tiny, almost invisible signal. I am someone who will know this. You've just planted a symbol of the identity you want. Future you, the one who reads the article, watches the tutorial, finishes the documentary, that version of you suddenly feels a little more real. And your brain rewards that feeling immediately, not later, right now, the second you hit save. There's a second piece to this too, something called information gap theory, which is one of the more well-established explanations for curiosity itself. The basic idea is that an unanswered question creates a kind of mental itch. Your brain doesn't like open loops. When you see a video that promises to teach you something or reveal something, that's an open loop. And here's the thing, saving the video closes that loop, not the watching, the saving. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between I will know this eventually and I know this now. The tension drops either way. So you get a hit of relief, a flicker of identity, and a closed loop, all from one tap, with zero effort and zero time spent. No wonder it feels so good. It's basically the cheapest form of self-improvement your brain can access. But here's where it gets worse. Because if saving already gives you the reward, what's actually left to motivate you to open the video? This is the part that explains why your list only ever grows. Symbolic self-completion theory doesn't just explain why saving feels good, it also predicts why saving quietly replaces the real action. Because once that symbolic act has already reduced the psychological tension, a big chunk of the pressure that would normally push you to actually watch the thing is already gone. You got the relief. The job, as far as your nervous system is concerned, is partially done. And then there's a second problem, volume. As your saved list grows, something counterintuitive happens. You'd think more saved videos would mean more excitement, more motivation to catch up. Instead, the opposite happens. Each individual video starts to matter less. When you had 5 things saved, each one felt significant. When you have 300, no single video carries any urgency because it's just one drop in an ocean of someday. This is related to something researchers call decision fatigue or choice overload. When you're faced with too many options, your brain doesn't engage more, it disengages. It gets overwhelmed and picks none of them. So the list grows, and the more it grows, the less pressure any single item creates. And the less pressure it creates, the less likely you are to ever open it. It's a loop that quietly sustains itself, and it feels like productivity the entire time. Now here's the part I actually want you to sit with. This was never really about the videos. Every time you save something, you're making a small promise to a future version of yourself. A version who has more time, a version who's more focused, a version who's finally going to sit down and actually learn the thing. And here's the uncomfortable truth. That version of you almost never shows up. Not because you're incapable, but because the present version of you already collected the reward. There's nothing left pulling you forward. And I want to be fair to the research here because this isn't just a cute observation. It can genuinely compound into something heavier. The same researchers studying digital hoarding have noted that, much like physical hoarding, it can become psychologically distressing over time. Not for everyone, not in every case. But when your saved folder becomes a mirror of everything you meant to do and didn't, that's not nothing. That's a quiet, ongoing reminder of a gap between who you are and who you keep promising to become. So the videos pile up. The identity you're chasing, the reader, the learner, the person who's on top of it, stays just out of reach. Not because you're lacking discipline, but because the tiny act of saving already gave your brain just enough relief to let you off the hook. So let's bring it all together. Saving isn't learning, it's postponing becoming. Every time you tap that button, your brain quietly closes the loop. I am someone who will know this, without you ever having to prove it. That relief is real, it's not imaginary, and it's not your fault for feeling it. But it's borrowed. It's borrowed from a future version of you who's going to inherit a folder of 400 unopened promises, and absolutely no memory of why any of them felt so important in the first place. So what do you actually do with this? A few things that work, based on how this pattern operates. First, the 2-minute rule. Before you save something, ask yourself one question. Would I watch this in the next 10 minutes? If the answer is no, you're probably not saving it for later. You're saving it to feel a certain way right now. Naming that in the moment is often enough to stop the reflex. Second, cap your list. Give yourself a hard limit. 10 saved items, maybe 15. When the list is full, you have to either watch something or delete something before you can add anything new. This forces the list to compete with itself instead of growing forever in the background. Third, run a weekly graveyard purge. Once a week, scroll through your saved list with zero guilt and delete anything you're no longer actually curious about. Remember, difficulty deleting was one of the 2 core factors researchers found in hoarding behavior. Practicing the delete is just as important as controlling the save. None of these are about willpower. They're about breaking the loop before it closes. So the tension that's supposed to drive you toward the real thing doesn't get drained away by a fake finish line. If this just explained a folder you've been quietly avoiding for months, do me a favor. Drop the number of videos sitting in your saved list right now in the comments. I genuinely want to see how bad it gets. And if you want the rest of this series, the sneaky psychology quietly running your everyday decisions, the full playlist is linked right below this video. Subscribe so the next one finds you, instead of you having to save it for later.